Hey guys, I cannot believe it's already day 3 of our 12 days of questions. But first I have to say that it's just real life here. I'm a teacher and we had pajama day at school, so I'm totally in my Merry Christmas y'all pajamas. It's freezing outside, hence the beanie. And so this is just real life. Here we are. The question for today is a good one. I'm real excited about it. It says, first, I want to say this ministry is not only helping married couples, but it's equipping singles who desire to be married. My question is, what do you do when the wait for wanting a spouse becomes overwhelming or feels like it just won't happen? I love this question because it's kind of out of the norm. Wasn't really expecting that, but I love it. And when I first started thinking about this question, I was like, gosh, I mean, what do you do in the waiting? And not just waiting for a spouse. There are lots of things, even in marriage, that you have to wait for. And sometimes you wait and you feel like you're alone when you're single. And sometimes you wait and you're waiting with your spouse. Sometimes you wait and you're with your spouse, but you feel like you're the only one that is feeling that waiting. So this can come in a lot of different areas. I know just for our life, we've waited lots. A long time ago, we waited to have a baby. It took us 3 years to get Luke. The waiting for that was hard. It was hard on our marriage. And so that's something we had to wait on. Then when we went through our marriage crisis, you know, Rusty was waiting on me to change and me to become who God created me to be. I was waiting on him for forgiveness, you know, feeling that need for forgiveness, the waiting for trust in that whole situation. And then looking down the line a little bit longer, when I went through breast cancer, the waiting for healing, the waiting for the answers of, will I be healed? Waiting on test results. Waiting. And also goes into things with children. So this topic of waiting is not just waiting for a spouse, but that's kind of what we're going to address today.
And I love that. And I love the fact that there's people out there, and like this person is a follower from here in our hometown, and she has a desire to prepare herself for marriage. And so she's watching marriage videos, which is really, really cool. So, but I love how you set that up, because there's just all kinds of seasons of waiting. And so as I speak to that question, what I really want to be able to say is that when you're in a season of waiting, there's really only one thing that you can control, and that's you. And so what I want to do is I want to say, in your season of waiting, I want to say and speak to you and give you permission to take care of yourself. And I know when we were going through our marriage intensive and we went for that 1 week of counseling, and we got in there, and the counselors looked at me and they said, we want to give you permission to take care of yourself. Like, don't try to fix your spouse. Don't try to fix the circumstances around you. Self-care. And so, you know, when I think about the seasons of waiting, like, you need to give yourself grace and be able to say, okay, I need to take care of myself. And what does that actually mean? Well, that means you're becoming the best version of yourself so that you're prepared for marriage, or you're prepared for whatever that next season is that's out of the waiting season, that you're doing all of that. And specifically, what I think that means is all of us have a God-shaped hole in our lives that only God can fill. And the crazy thing is that we try to fill it with everything else. We try to fill it with a spouse. We try to fill it with a child. We try to fill it with health. We try to fill it with, you know, even when you're married, you please me, you fill that need. And only God can fill that void. And so during that season of waiting, that's what you focus on. You focus on your relationship with the Lord. So then whenever what you're waiting for happens, or maybe it doesn't happen exactly like you want, but what you're saying is, God, you're all I need, and you are enough. And even if what I'm waiting for never happens, you're enough for me. And then if it does, and when it does, it's just gravy on the biscuit, as we say down in Mississippi, you know? It's just that's just the extra that comes.
The overflow.
The overflow, that's right. And so take care of yourself. And then the flip side of that, this is going to seem a little bit contradictory, but what I really want to say also is, as you're waiting, you're not just waiting and going, okay, God, I'm only concerned about myself. I'm going to wait on you to move. I'm going to wait. And Mr. Right, if you're waiting on a spouse, or Miss Right is going to knock on the door one day. Like, it's not that. Like what the way I like to say it is that you're actively waiting. And so you're doing things that, as you're taking care of yourself, you're also doing things to take the focus off of yourself. Right. Because as you're waiting and you're actively waiting, you're doing things that are serving. You're serving other people. You're investing in other people's lives. And maybe you are someone that's waiting on a spouse. Well, there's a lot of young ladies or young men below you that could really use some mentoring and some encouragement, and you have the time to do that. So pour into other people, pour into other people's lives, serve at your church and in your community, whatever you can do, but you're actively waiting as you wait. So I just love that question, because we all go through seasons of waiting. And I think that even as married couples, we go through seasons where we're sort of waiting on our spouse to kind of catch up in some areas. And so as that's happening, we're taking care of ourselves, but we're also actively pursuing our spouse, and we're actively pursuing ways that we can strengthen our marriage. And so I just appreciate that question, and I think it's really neat that there's people besides married couples that are out there that are watching this. And so
that's right.
So
so I did want to say there is a book that I like to give and talk about with single people or dating, and it's by Ben Stewart. It's called Single, Dating, Engaged, Married, and it goes through those 4 stages in this book. I've even had both of my boys read the single part, because there's things that God's going to teach you during that season. And then also a section on dating, where you just don't want to miss what God's teaching you in that season. And even if that season is longer than you want it to be, there's still, God has you there for a purpose in that season, for a purpose. And you just don't want to miss it. Yep. And my favorite thing to say to single people is, you run after God. You run after God with everything you have. And as you're running, you want to look for somebody that's running with you. You want to look for somebody who's running after the Lord with everything they have as well. So I appreciate that question. It was a great one, kind of mixed it up a little bit. And but we still need some questions. We have a few down for the next few days, but we need some more. So send them in.
Send your questions in, and we'll see you tomorrow.